All right, time to charge this thing again. I think we just do this. Oh my God. Let's try again. Okay. All right. Oh, what the? One more time. One more time. Oh my God! Yeet. This is stupid. We are caning, brother. This car is still a moment. It's like no other performance EV before it because it isn't just about pure performance, pure power. This thing is first and foremost a machine full of camp. This thing is hilarious, and just like the first season of Arrested Development, beneath the comedy is a deep, deep core of excellence. Just a lot less incest. Ballistic, this car. Firstly, the numbers. 601 horsepower out of 2 motors with 641 on boost, if you're so inclined to add more power, even though this thing is already ballistic. Jesus Christ. You get a rear electronically controlled differential, so it helps the car move around a bit, and of course, both the motors do crazy shit that I'll explain later. Battery pack's a little bigger than the Ioniq 5. It's an 84 kilowatt hour instead of a 77. To no end because this car has basically no range, because it's all down to power for this thing. And also the most critical bit of this whole equation, like any other car, is the tires. They're specially made Pirelli P0s that somehow grip but also have low rolling resistance to be an EV tire. Here's the thing, there's a lot of seriousness going on here, and then you hear the fake engine simulation, which is silly. This is the whole point of the camp here. Listen to it. It sounds like Gran Turismo 2. There's burbles. And a lot of people complain, oh, it sounds really fake. It sounds like this. I think that was on purpose, because if it was too realistic, it would be in an uncanny valley where, honestly, the powertrain calibration, the fake shifts, all these other things are so good and so convincing that if it felt so real, it would lose its comedy. It would just feel like a serious sports car. But because you can hear that it's like compressed, shitty audio, it's hilarious. My grandmother got in it. She doesn't care about cars, and she's laughing because it clearly sounds so fake and so funny. It's a little toy of a car. I mean, really, just look at it. This thing looks like it belongs in a PS2 game. It has 3 polygons that make up the entire shape of the car, but it also adds these arrow flicks. It has these front blades and the rear diffuser, and it has that ridiculous wing, and it's a bright orange. It's a toy. It's a silly car, even though it's completely massive and it's actually an SUV. I just want it to be a little Hot Wheels car and roll it around. I think I would have drawn this as a kid. There's a colossal amount of engineering firepower behind this car. Just to get serious for a second, the motors, they're pulling torque vectoring, doing reverse torque, doing all sorts of wacky stuff to make the car turn a certain way. Then there's the classic end secret, which I don't think a lot of people talk about. Veloster, Elantra, all these cars have brilliant, brilliant steering. The weighting, everything is perfect, even though it's electric. It's really easy to get to grips with, but it all works together with the handling. The way this car drives, you can sort of just settle it into a gentle carve, and it's so easy to get to grips with, even though it weighs 4,816 pounds, which is ridiculous. This car does not drive like it weighs that much. The trick to it all is the suspension tuning. The steering only really works because the car, when you turn it in, instead of just sort of settling into an understeer, it gets on its tippy toes. It makes the rear active and talk, and you sort of guide the car through turning itself, rather than you doing a bunch of work getting it to turn. It's just a brilliant, brilliant car to drive. I can't believe what they've achieved here. What do you want? I think you're raving a bit. It can't be that good. In fact, you know it's not that good. Don't make me talk about the thing, please. Yes, the thing. You know, the thing where you haven't driven it all week because you can't charge it, and how you showed up to another charger and it was broken, and it has no range, and because of all that, you can't even use it for its designed purpose of going out for a drive because you're worried about charging it the whole time. That thing? Okay, fine. Let's talk about charging. Let's go. All right, the car has one big problem. It's the fact that it's an EV. It's really it. The whole point of the car is its problem. It's no range, no chargers anywhere, but but it's so good to drive that I just want to put gas in it and drive it some more. Here's the fact of the matter, is I've had this car for a week, and normally I put like 500-600 miles on cars in a week, just because I need to test them. I need to drive them around. I use them as my car. I've only put about 200 miles on this car because the nearest charger to me that's a fast charger is 60 miles from my house, and I live in one of the largest metropolises on Earth. It's been 3 years since I started reviewing cars and electric cars, and it's only gotten worse. It's the same amount of chargers, and there's more cars at the chargers. I can't use the thing. And I think that's the most disappointing part. This is where I toss the ball back at the automakers, because it's getting to a point where it's a bit ridiculous. How are you gonna sell these cars, charge $70,000 nearly for this car, and just expect customers to live with having a bad experience? It should be getting to the point where they're paying for chargers, they're installing chargers, they're ensuring good customer experience. They're spending billions making these things, and they can't even get you the fuel to run them. So if I can't take this out when I want, where I want, and how I want, why would I buy this over an equivalent gas-powered sports sedan? Or even, why wouldn't I just buy an Ioniq 5 SEL long range and just use that as an appliance? This car exists in a middle ground for weirdos like me. So I don't like it because I can't drive it, but I like it for what it needs to be. All that clever engineering I talked about is only possible because it's an electric car. It's also wonderful how you can just turn it back into an EV at demand. You can turn off the fake motor and just sort of enjoy it. And then when you turn on all the stuff, this becomes one of the most insane canyon cars I've ever driven. There's a lot of cool stuff that this thing does. There's a rack of switches here. There's N torque distribution, N pedal, N race, N drift optimizer, all of which optimize the car for certain driving conditions. So torque distribution, you move the forward back torque weight, you can go 100% front, 100% rear, very clever. N pedal is like a race pedal, N race is a cooling thing. The most interesting part is N drift optimizer, which you probably saw earlier in the video, which makes the car do the biggest, most ridiculous slides. Then of course, there's the fake engine, which is very clever with a few different sounds you can pick. There's ignition, which is just a 4-cylinder. You have evolution, which they say is what future N cars may sound like. Future N cars are going to sound like a robot sneezing. And supersonic, which is apparently the sound of a jet engine. I don't really know what to make of that one. I like ignition. On the steering wheel, which is its own thing for the Ioniq 5N, there's this button called NGB, or N-Grin Boost. N-Grin Boost on the steering wheel, and paddle shifters, which work beautifully. So along with that fake engine sound, it's a whole fake engine simulation, which optimizes the electric motor's torque to make it feel flawed like a gas engine. Down low, makes no power, and then up above 5, 6, 7 grand, it starts pulling hard to redline, very linear power band, and the shifts feel just like it, It's uncanny. A gas engine, like a dual clutch. It's so weird. The calibration work is kind of astounding, especially for a thing that's pretty much optional. You can just map a button and turn it off and go back to being an EV. Another critical point the engineers of N worked on was the seating height of the car, called H point, basically. Most cars, seating position is a very critical measurement because of crash safety and other things. For this car, compared to a normal Ioniq 5, they lowered it 2 inches, which is colossal. It makes you feel lowered, sunk into the car, makes it feel a lot sportier. It's really critical to the experience, and you get the excellent N buckets, which are in every N car. That's a whole lot of N, brother. We're at something of an impasse here because this car is in a class of 1. There is no other EV that is a satire of a gasoline car. The issue is it's compromised in its own engineering because as a practical EV SUV, it has less range than the normal version and it's less usable. It's also compromised as a performance car, an N car, because of that range too. It's an amazing car to drive. It's so good that I just want to take it out and drive it, but I just can't. This car is a whole new thing. I almost don't want to think of it as an EV sometimes. I drive it and I get tricked into thinking it's a gas hot hatch. Right now, it's a great toy. What would make this a practical car every day is if you had access to a home charger or a consistent fast charger near you. That's a thing that's really dependent on where you are, where you live, and what your situation is. This car doesn't fit all molds. Closing in on the point, I think there's some critical things we need to look at. This is a car built for a highly specific purpose, for a highly specific market. It has a lot of fun and whimsy. It looks cool. It has enthusiast-oriented features, and more importantly, it has a driving experience like nothing else. What I think this is a car that is 10 years too early for this world. The Ioniq 5N is going to be a future classic.